Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another edition of Adobe Creative Collabs. My name's Scott Hemmens and I'm delighted to say I'm joined today by designer and creative director, Mr. Radim Malinic. Now, if you're interested in branding design or just design in general, then you're going to really love the session we've got for you today. Because over the course of the next hour, Radim is going to be sharing with us his process and his insights into creating a real-life branding brief. So, just to add, we're live today, so if you've got any burning questions you'd like to ask Radim, then please do so using the chat on YouTube, and I'll do my best to relay those questions to Radim as we go forward. So, first of all, thanks very much for coming, mate. How are you doing?
No, thanks for having me. So nice to be back after previous broadcast. I'm dead excited to be here today because not only I'm happy to share. Oh, crikey, sorry, I have a first technical problem already here. That's me. Okay, right. Excited to share the process of branding, of tips and secrets of what we do with my creative studio. Also, I'm here to talk about my new book, which was released on Monday, Book of Branding. So everything that you guys want to know, what we do and how we do it, I'm here to do that. Here to answer your questions. We'll be today talking about a real life brief for Titanic Film Festival from Budapest, which we did recently, and I'm really excited to be back.
Cool, excellent. Now I know you were on this very channel just a few weeks ago, but for anybody that missed that particular session, before we get into it, why don't you tell us a bit about you, about yourself?
Yeah, so as you said, my name is Radim Malinic. I'm Czech-born creative director, designer, author, and occasional keynote speaker. I run Brand New, which is a branding and creative studio based in London. Well, I'm based in London. My design partner, Tomasz Party, is based in Budapest, which is the link to the festival, actually. And we work for all sorts of clients around the globe, which is the power of the internet these days. You can actually work with anyone across the world seamlessly, especially using Adobe tools, needless to say.
Nice plug.
Nice plug. And we work, what we do, we specialize in is actually working with startups.
Okay.
And small businesses, because we really feel like we can harness the power of small collaboration and really create like a team where we work for the common good and try to help people to really actually amplify their message and make their branding and sort of identity as best as possible.
For the common good, I like that.
Common good, yeah. Like actually, we want people to win. We want people to succeed, and actually to run a startup. Like you've got so many things to look after and so to look out and just like there's so much to do to launch a product, and to have a design partner and design studio that actually helps you to do stuff together. We really have sort of pride ourselves on actually not being that.
Fantastic.
I've got a few slides that I can show about work that we do, which we kind of explain. So this is the project we hit about. This is our website, a little bit out of date, but this is what we do, kind of creating leading brands and products with curious people, just like you, worldwide.
Okay.
But we don't really have a set style. I mean, there's a positivity. I've started a studio on the back of my freelance career, and I would like to think of myself as a happy person, and colors really speak to me on many different reasons. So we work across product packaging, branding. We not only create a packaging, but we also create key visuals for these products. So it could be, we can be working on a coffee brand or halal vitamins. We work with fashion clients, and what we do, we not only create the branding and the tags and all of this, we also create the visuals like adverts. So on the right-hand side, what you can see, what you can see, that's an ad created for Dreamin', which is it's amazing. Most of our clients you might have heard of, might have not heard of. They're from all different walks of life and from different continents, really. And most of the time, we just don't really get more than just the name of the company. These startups, they are so product focused that we spend time actually drilling down into the purpose and the brand values and kind of the strategy and how we can help those guys really succeed and give them the right stuff.
You have to really get into their shoes, right?
Yeah, and for example, this example is for a guy called Victor Bordin from Brazil. He decided to start a sports brand because he's an athlete, and he wanted to create a brand that would sort of speak to his sort of target demographic. And we worked with him on, literally this was done through WhatsApp phone calls. Like we didn't actually, I've never been to Brazil and he's never been to England,
Oh, wow.
but we work across that way. So what we did.
It's the way of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think I just like, I really put a lot of emphasis on clear communication, like how you can speak to people and how you can get your message across. That's the kind of reason why I write the books, because I haven't reinvented branding, but I feel like I've changed the process of how we can work successfully with people and actually have them on your side, because it's nothing worse than creating most beautiful logos. And you know, as a sort of startup designer would sort of do, like they would create 5 different ideas and hope that one would be best. But it's all about creating one idea that really works, and we drill down to the purposes and try to create a visual idea and a story which would actually help, you know, to get it across. So we do quite a lot of work in 3D, but as you can see, like it kind of works seamlessly because we've got this branding and visuals that really create sort of visual rich brands. Another example, this one is for a lingerie brand from Australia, from Sydney. Again, this is the 2-people team, a girl called Katie and her partner. And again, we just try to create visual stories that really lead on to, you know, marketing and social media. And this campaign was about being bold. So this is a letter O, if I got it right. And it's just like creating these things that really kind of mean something and how they sort of portray the message.
It's all about storytelling, isn't it? Like you say. I mean, if the previous example, if you just sent them a letterhead or logo, it's not going to sell the story to them, is it? But you've created these beautiful visual stories that help to.
It's usually
to
very
sell the
two-dimensional, like, because if you don't tell, I mean, I'll be sharing the one secret of how to get that across really well to the client, but it's the visual stories. Like, it's actually how do you understand what goes into the brand. And what we do, for example, with the help of 3D and sort of creating visual mood boards, like we collect our materials, we collect literally almost as if you were branding a physical, like if you were making a physical store or physical space, you would have your tile, you have wood panels and that kind of stuff. And we try to do this with the branding identity already looking forward and looking ahead of just the logo design. Like, what do we have? What does symbolize what the brand wants to do? This is an example for a company called Hemmens, which is a kind of an ongoing project right now. Again, done with 2 people, a guy called Ed and Jonathan. Again, like these guys are very excited about the product, but obviously this is where we step in, Tomasz and I, and actually try to create these visuals and kind of give people in the first stage of actually presenting the brand of like, this is what it looks like, guys. You know, like this is the visuals. Like there's no, I mean, until the point of actually creating a physical product to get to the photo shoot, it takes weeks, months, sometimes even a year and a half.
Yeah.
And we can do this. Like actually we can create these visuals and actually get people to see what we're creating, because you can actually see the space. Like, you know, for example, when you get architects' floor plans, you go like, that beautiful black and white lines on black lines on a white piece of paper.
Yeah.
But what does the house look like? You know, and that's why, for example, in architecture, I think that's the famous sentence. Like when you get a new building in a community, like before it goes up, you know, no one knows what it looks like. But when it goes up, you go like, oh, I don't really like this. So that's why they started doing 3D renders, and the artist sort of impressions were kind of cool. But now, if you've got a new development, they can show you a skyline of London, and you go like, oh, that's what it's going to be. And everyone now can have their opinion because they can see the real thing.
We've got VR and AR as well.
Oh,
to
absolutely,
really
yeah. I
bring
mean,
these things to life.
it just helps people really understand what they're really getting to. So, I mean, this packaging, we validated the labels, we validated the whole concept before we even opened the InDesign file properly. You know, like it's just before I started making this. Some of our imagery is 2D, like just sort of using botanical illustrations and stuff. But again, looking at sort of flow of colors and helping people really get something that draws emotional response. This is for a brand in Soho, actually. Is it going to be a bar?
Okay.
It's not a band, it's a bar. So, and we're looking at these sort of things like how we get across, you know, the sort of feeling of, I mean, these guys just doing everything about grapes and sort of that product and sort of ingredient. And it's just amazing to have the ability in our day and age to be creating things and just visualize them and validating them before they get made. And I think that's just a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, shameless plug, as we talked about it before. And this is my new book called Book of Branding, where all the secrets and everything is in there. and it came out on Monday, and I'm just really excited that I can be sharing that with you.
Yeah, thanks very much for my, there's the camera. Thanks very much for my copy, by the way, mate. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
It's a nice early Christmas present for me.
I have to get it signed, yeah, we have to get it signed.
Would you mind, yeah?
Of course, I'll do that later. But as you see, like I've some of the case studies already here, but the process actually, I don't know if it's visible, yeah. So the process is literally 3 steps. It's planning, process, and application. So the planning is all about the strategy. It's all about getting to know people. I always make it clear that we make it our business to understand other people's business, because you can be the team. Then you can actually work together. And I always say, like at that initial stage, it feels more like dating. When you go on a first date. No doubt, I know that you and I would know for a long time. But
can't remember. But yeah.
Yeah. It's like we are always never the right impression of ourselves. We try to impress people. So. Yeah. Clients would say, "Oh, you can do anything. Like we got all the money and all the freedom. You can do absolutely anything." And the designer would say, "Oh, of course, I'll make this. Yeah, of course, it's amazing." And then both parties go home and they're like, "Yeah, we haven't got as much money. We're not really sure about this idea." And the designer would be like, "Oh, how can I do this and how can I do that?" You would never really know what it is. So we try to be very honest and get to know people and talk about their hopes and aspirations. Talk about their product. Branding is a fantastic way of learning about the world and life in a way, because I've learned through the collaborations over the last 10 plus years about how to make lemonade, how to make all sorts of things, you get to learn the processes. I was in a CBD bottling plant just a few weeks ago just to see how everything works. And
oh wow!
I'm obviously if when I was a designer in a company, like you would barely get to see your proper brief or the client, because you just get handed a job bag or like, okay, this is the job, this is what you do. Whereas being involved, it gives you the sense of purpose and actually drive to really want to go and succeed.
Yeah, and you have to live and breathe the client's business, don't you, as well, to really.
Well, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I loved. Sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I love when Michael Beirut said, like, when he designs a brochure, he reads every single word in a brochure. Like, he wants to understand what is in there, and I think that's very important, because the speed we create work now with, it's incredible. We go 100 miles an hour, and you can miss a detail, you can miss something, and that's why we really take time in the first stage and go, okay, what is it all about? And try to create and form sort of like a picture of the company, an art direction visual, and just say, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to create? Then, only then, when we've agreed on the art direction, on the strategy, then we can go to the process and start creating the logo, all the assets like colors, typefaces, all the iconography, all of that stuff can be created in that section.
Yeah.
And then when we have that as a sort of almost like a sort of rudimentary stage of a branding guidelines, only then we go into the application and sort of create all of the things that that the brand needs, from packaging, uniforms, cars, all of that stuff. That's what we do. So again, the book is out and it's on Amazon. It seems to be doing already very well. And
didn't you get to #1 in some
we are #1 in branding and branding and logo designer.
Amazing.
I want to really say thank you to anyone who's bought the book so far. It's been an incredible launch and it's been an incredible journey, and obviously it's just a nice validation.
It's a lovely book as well.
Thank you. People really like the smell of the book. They're quite sort of quite particular now. I have to actually ask my printers, like,
there's a particular scent.
Yeah, there's tweets of people saying,
okay.
People say I'm having a good sniff.
Yeah.
I'm having a good sniff.
It's pretty satisfying.
Although I got 1 3-star review from someone saying this book smells a bit funny.
Okay.
This book smells a bit funny.
It's not for everybody.
I mean, it's all about the tactile nature of a physical thing. I've been in the industry for 15, 16 years, and as a freelancer, I was making these sort of small 64-page booklets just to give them out, just to send them to people, because it's a lot harder than to just it's a lot harder to throw it away.
Yeah.
So that's what I got from the art directors that I was pitching myself to. They said, I've still got your book. It's nicely made. I don't want to throw it away.
Yeah, I've heard this many times actually. Yeah.
It's just it's just the same thing that people have been doing for hundreds of years, but it's just like now in the age of iPad Pros and everything, like people just show their work on the screen and in a meeting. You can't leave your iPad there, and it's so easy to miss something on the web page, because we all got like these beautiful case studies, and we've got a client on the phone like, so if you scroll scroll down, that, and then now 17th picture down, which one? Yeah, easily just with this, like it's page 77.
Yeah,
sorted. So So as I said at the top of the session, we'll be talking about a branding for the Titanic Film Festival in Budapest. And what I'll do, I'll show quickly the final outcome, and I'll take you on a journey of how we approached it, how we achieved it, and what we did, and what tools we used.
Fantastic.
Right. So, Titanic Film Festival is the 26th year. I couldn't go to the launch because my wife's pregnant and I need to be nearby. But as you can see on the screen, it actually happened just a few weeks ago. And these are our posters what we created. This is the overarching branding. The poster there in the picture is actually 5 meters tall. It's absolute beast. Yeah, it's 2 meters by 5 meters tall. We created that in, have I got another picture there? We created that obviously in Adobe Indesign, which was quite fun because the render had to be quite big. But these posters and the overarching theme was for the love of the big screen. It was, the festival exists because people love making movies. The festival also exists because people love watching movies. And I mean, some magic happens. And we wanted to kind of get to that theme of creating that. So we looked at visual inspiration from the actual physical space. So what the cinemas look like, what's just the magic on stage have? You know, like that's the other side. What do we see there? Then we looked at old style oil paintings and kind of looking like, what can we do? Because the cinema making, it's about 100 and something years old. Yeah. Don't quote me on that though. It's obviously more than 100 years old. And we kind of wanted to take it even further back, just the traditional craft, like why do people make it and what is it? And as you can see in one of our examples, whoever's the artist, I would like to quote you, credit you, but you can create amazing things in 3D. You can create things that look like a real thing, especially, you can apply textures and stuff in Photoshop. It's amazing. So we kind of thought this was our direction. This is a part of our art direction proposal to the client. And we said, we were thinking of doing this, like referencing the physical spaces. We were thinking of kind of recreating the magic in this way. We also gave the client an option of creating a 3D typography. Like that was our second route. Is it something that we want to do? Like just to spell the word Titanic or 2019 and that kind of stuff. And we also looked, and maybe some of our viewers might recognize their work in there. We also looked at other festivals, just like in the same way as we do with the product research and build a new brand, we look at what other people have done already. And yeah, we had reasonable feedback from the client. We had a reasonable thing, and we were kind of, there was not necessarily a clear answer to say, oh, we don't want to do this and that. The client was almost saying like, actually, can you give us maybe some sketches and what you do? So this art direction proposal, as you can see on my screen, was created as a PDF, which we created. And then I record myself going through the PDF, just like I'm speaking now, and go through the PDF and record myself. Literally, I do a screen capture in QuickTime, and I go through the through deck page by page, just like I'm doing now. It's an amazing time-saving trick and tip because I've not been to Budapest, I've not met the client, my design partner Tomasz has met them, but it's so nice that you can give someone a real, true view on your thinking. Because if I was to send a blank PDF and hope for people to fill the blanks, I might never get the answer. They might never get the idea behind the thinking. So it's one of the best things that I've ever. I didn't come up with that. Maybe I just heard it somewhere. But I've been using it for the last 2 or 3 years, if not longer, and it's amazing. It actually now I get to the point where I've got so confident in recording these videos that I just give video briefs. I just say, oh, by the way, we need X, Y, Z. Yeah. And I just show my screen rather than type long emails. This is all about efficiency. Yeah. So, as I said, in the art direction proposal, we came up with a couple of concepts, and then we got to sort of validating them. What we decided, because we were really forming the concept of for the love of the big screen, we wanted to show, rather than sort of go for more typographic route, we wanted to go for the really solid theme. So what we did, we jumped to Adobe Stock and kind of looked at a few different options of what kind of visuals we can get from cinema.
Which is a good source of inspiration as well.
Yeah.
Adobe Stock, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, even if you're not actually going to use the final assets, it's a good place to look just for inspiration.
Absolutely, it's a great place of inspiration. I mean, what we did here, as you can see, I've already searched for film reel before. I wanted to see what sort of types of film reels there are. You know, I'm not so super proficient in the art of making films. I just wanted to see, like, for example, is the film reel like is my cursor showing? So the right hand side center, as a sort of I wouldn't know the difference, I have to be honest. But, you know, there's different types. So we're looking at different types of film reels, clapperboards. I think what a fantastic fantastic word for this is, because technically it's all it does. It just claps.
It's a clapperboard, isn't it?
It's a clapperboard.
That's what it is.
But as you can see, like, there's a fantastic chair here as well, like director's chair. So we really wanted to kind of take elements of the filmmaking, architecture, and the individual experience, because what we came up with in the end was this theme that when you go to the cinema and you can be sat there with hundreds of people, you have an individual experience.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you watch the movie and you get something yourself different than the person sat next to you. As a parent, I'm sure that when you take your children to the cinema, I mean,
not yet.
No, I've done it once. It's quite.
How old is yours?
She's now 3.5. She was 3 years old. Went to see The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Oh, wow.
And we luckily went to see it in the cinema with chairs and, you know, the sofa. So she just spent everything. She was climbing around the place, and I mean, it's quite an experience. You literally, it's just like, you watch the cinema and you watch your child like, hey, come on, sit on my lap, because I mean, she would just wander off, and because it just feels really free. I mean, again, her experience was like, what is this place? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
They've got popcorn, obviously,
Yeah.
and orange juice. So she was dead happy. So it was fantastic. But
Yeah.
going back to this, it's like, for the love of the big screen was our overarching theme. It was incredible, and we kind of wanted to sort of build a theme around it. So yeah, with the stock, I mean, it's just literally you go like a cinema curtain, kind of just literally curtain, cinema curtain. So yeah, just looking at all of these assets, like, what do they look like? How do they fold? You know, like, what is the feeling? What is the experience? And so we put that together as a sort of our own sort of production mood board, and went into create the imagery based on that. So at the beginning, these were created in CGI. What our background images is what we create with our other work. Like, we do a lot of sort of visually rich brands. And I just love, as someone who started in Photoshop 15 years ago, it's amazing to be able to create images, and it's amazing. I mean, I remember watching some, like, not even watching, I remember, like, in old magazines, like, looking at tutorials, like how someone had a park and then put, like, pictures of his dog 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, this is exactly what I used to do when I was a student, by I think it was Computer Arts magazine.
Exactly,
back in the day.
Computer Arts, Digital Arts, Digit.
Get that the day it came out, Photoshop tutorial.
I mean, it really changed.
Probably give up halfway through, but it was fun.
Did you? Oh, I persevered. I just picked up so many tips and tricks, and I also picked up quite a lot of insights from retouchers.
Oh, okay.
I would like to believe that I use Photoshop more as a retoucher rather than a designer. I just love the photographer's sort of way, and this is pre-Lightroom. I mean, I remember being sat in the unveiling of Lightroom in 2006 or something that was, and it's just what we see. I mean, even with the regular cinema, you know, like, it's not shot in amazing, some sort of funky space, you know, like, it's shot in real life, and then it's treated and it's given the look, and so that's why I love Photoshop for what it really is in that way. So
is this where you would start, or would you start with like a hand-drawn sketch to begin with, or are you one of these guys that just goes straight into Photoshop?
I was one of those guys who would go straight to Photoshop and then pull my hair up and just 3 o'clock in the morning, because it would not be working, because the plan was missing. There was always a plan missing, and it's just like when you're a teenager, you go to a gig, you know, your favorite artist gig, you go to the straight for the front row, because, like, yay, you just want to be in heart of the action. But when you get older, you want to step back and actually really enjoy the action. So for me, it was years and years of actually delaying myself from actually going to straight into Photoshop, because I needed a roadmap. I needed to know how I get from A to B. And if there's one piece of advice I would always give, is just like, you learn to wait, you learn to sort of to explain to yourself what it is. Because you mentioned earlier the word storyteller. And I remember reading storytelling, like, our designers should be storytellers. There's nothing more frightening to read, oh, designers should be storytellers. Because like, how you don't learn to be a storyteller. Like, how do you do this? And it's all in the mix. Like, it's all actually about making yourself to understand the business, making yourself understand the brief, and actually having a look around and kind of doing your research. And then you realize when you piece these things together, the story comes in a natural way. And it's all about just taking that time and space. So and what we do with 3D, I mean, there's some sketches, as you can see the frantic sketch on the right hand side. We tend to work over sort of Skype, like doing a screen share, because Tomasz is based in Budapest. So it's all on the fly. So we are not in the same room, but we can work that way. We can see what's being made, what should we change. And in this case, you can see I wanted to move stuff to the sort of more lower, up and down.
That's
and we're just kind of discussing things. And so this is how we arrived at the image. But I'll show you in Photoshop. I've got it prepared here. It's just what we did with the posters. There was two different colors sort of black values. And if I was to switch off the layers, as you can see, this is what comes up out of 3D. And then we've got a curve on top of it, just to make it a bit more punchier. I think I need to drag it across, get off, leave info. Then we've got exposure, just to make it a bit brighter. And then we've got selective color, which obviously just pulls out the layers under sort of the tones in the green. But if I was to show you here, for example, in the green, or I think what I did now with neutrals then, I just love how even just a small nudge, like I can just take out magenta out of neutrals and the green gets lighter. I mean, that technically doesn't make sense. It's green. I'm going into neutral channel, I'm pulling out magenta, and the thing's getting greener. But it's literally that's the retouching side. I mean, I remember working with the retouches in Stanley's Post a decade ago. And there would be a guy watching the screen who's like, yeah, you just need to pull out yellow out of your blue channel. And I'm like, what did you just say? It was like that. It's just the number of ways how we can achieve something is endless. But with the sort of people who have been in the industry for a long time, they've got their methods. This is how things started. And these guys really showed me how to do things really, really well. And just, showed me, I observed, and I wanted to know more and more about it. So, if I'm getting my space bar properly. In the selective color here, it's a minimal nuance, but I've taken, in this channel, I think I've taken some out of black. Yeah, I just literally go -10 in every single layer, just to have a contrast, because when it comes to the posters, in the end, we needed to have two different types of black, because our border around it was like a rich black. It was like, I can show it to you in a second, but on these ones, we wanted to make sure that there's differences. So these were the final visuals. We created 4 of them. We put a focus on the viewer, visitor. What do you call someone called into cinema? It's like cinema goer. Yeah. We got our cinema goer. We've got our clapperboard. We've got our little drink. We've got a popcorn and a film reel and a director's chair, and this is a script. So we kind of wanted to have one element of each and just create these sceneries of if you were to put a zoom, literally, if you were to stop the film reel, pull out the film, and it's like, this is one frame, and this is exactly what was our intention, what we wanted to do with this.
Yeah.
So we've solidified our direction, our concept of a story. We've got our visuals, and then next it came to choice of type. So I'll attempt to do a live demo of Adobe Capture. This will be interesting. It's not coming up, so that's a fun start already.
You're very brave.
I'm very brave. I'm really revealing secrets. It was working earlier, and I think, nope, we might have to abandon that. Yeah, I'm afraid this is not going to work.
Okay, maybe I can tell folk what you were about to do. So.
We can try again. I'll try it quickly again. Right, we don't want to. Yeah, look, there's Father Ted and all that. But let's go quickly. No, right. Yeah, this is definitely live.
Yeah, we're definitely live.
We're definitely live. And
so Adobe Capture, for folks watching that haven't used it, is a great little mobile app that effectively allows you to go around and capture inspiration on your phone, regardless of whether you're at your desk or not. So I think what Radim was going to show us is whereby if you've got some signage, for example, that you've seen maybe on a shop front or another poster, you can snap it with Capture, and it will automatically recommend fonts which match that signage. So that was one of the features that we were going to try and show. I'm not sure if we're going to...
we're getting there.
We're going to get...
Yes,
maybe we're going to get there.
No, it's
I've stolen all of your thunder now.
No, that's okay. At least, like, if this doesn't work, which is likely not to, because it's live, and that'll be a sod's law. So I've got here, I mean, we've got a little bit of Inception going on. So this is my phone up here. I've got it here. I've got some old Hungarian posters, and what I've done is it's kind of thinking about itself. I've clicked on Select Type, and I'll go... exactly what Scott said. I'll just go to Adobe Fonts, and it'll show me what fonts, and I'll just put it a bit more to the center. It'll show me options of what typefaces I can actually, what Adobe Fonts matches to the picture.
So that's using our artificial intelligence called Adobe Sensei that you might hear more about.
I mean, it's a pretty amazing tool, because one of the things that I found, clicking done, so I can see now what it would look like with the word Film Festival. I mean, it's taken me to a slightly interesting place with some of the interesting choices. But
the other thing about it works much better. I'm not sure if you realise with if you've got a higher resolution, or if you've got a big image to scan. It works better than a small.
I think I'm attempting quite sort of near impossible to actually run this on live, but
you get the idea.
The reason also, I mean, the reason why we used Adobe Fonts for this is that, and actually what I find myself increasingly using Adobe Fonts for, is that it's a seamless integration. So everyone on Creative Cloud has got access to the same fonts. Everyone who buys pretty fonts, like you get those, what I call like the superstars of now, you got like the Gothams, and you got the Druk, and that, like those fonts, what's the word? Like, it's like a perfect storm. Like, you see them everywhere. All of a sudden, like, oh, let's use that. And when Airbnb redesigned, rebranded a few years ago, everyone was using LL Circular, which is on the book cover. LL Circular, another one of those. But I wanted to find time and actually typefaces on Adobe Fonts that are not too overused and they are practical. Actually, we can use them across different machines. You can use them on web. My developer can log into it and actually create WebKits. I found the fonts just incredible. Like, it's just actually good, and there's some good stuff. There's some really good stuff, and I've been actually impressed. There were some type foundries that I've followed for a while that they've come on board. It was great. So the typeface we used for the festival needed to have international characters. Luckily, we only needed accented A. I mean, that was good.
But you never know. You could get a last-minute change for another word, couldn't you?
Hopefully, we'll do it in Finland or something, where they've got more challenging type characters. But what we did here was that what I'm trying to say. This type is called Termina. And what is really interesting, because I thought, hey, maybe I'll try to avoid the trendy style. But as soon as I use Termina on this project, I see Termina used everywhere, and I'm like, okay, right, time to find something else. But I have to say that I've been impressed with Adobe Fonts, just because if you spend time looking at things, it really, really works. It really works to find something really interesting. Do we have any questions, or is it all?
We don't have any questions on the chat as yet, I don't believe. So I think you're fine to carry on.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got, as I said, we've got our visuals. We now have our type. So the next part of the project was in Adobe Indesign. So as I mentioned, I wanted to create. I've lost my thing. Hey, I don't have anything. Here we go. We're back. We wanted to create what I say like a film frame. Literally, it's just a frame from a film. So we went to Adobe Indesign, and I've created what I've got. I've got simple guides for margins and layouts. Up to the top, it'll be 40 mil. I think this is let's have a look what poster size we've got. So we've got an A3 template. We've got 40 mil margin from left and right and top all over. I like the feature. I like just tabbing. If I say 35 and tab, 35. So literally, as you can see, the pink purpley line just changes. And then what we did, just created a template that way to keep our visual in the middle. So I think they'll be all sort of the same on our posters. What we've got here, what I also created, is kind of like a movable sort of type setup. You know, so as long as it's on a grid, we can move the information anywhere you want on the posters. I mean, because there's nothing worse than having just one template and be really tied down to that thing over and over again. So I kind of wanted to play with it, and actually, especially when it came to do the Hungarian posters, like the word festival was a bit longer, and it was I mean, we could could do anything with it really. So yeah, that was the magic. When it came to creating those 5-meter posters and B1 posters for bus stops and all of those things, it was the same process over and over again. Like we just used the same. What's also
sorry to interrupt. How would your approach be different for creating this huge 5-meter poster? To my eye, that looks like it would work very nicely in an Instagram story or something like that. How would the two approaches be different, or are they the same?
I mean, they are mostly the same. I mean, because the visual itself obviously lends itself to a number of variations. I mean, initially we just thought we can sort of crop the images, you know. We can do it's kind of variable style. I mean, we decided to kind of keep it in the middle to give it a logic. But equally, when we were validating the process, which I'll show you in a second, like when we created the proposal, we tried different things. And when it comes to sort of making things that are obviously larger, especially that poster, I think that was potentially the biggest thing I've ever done. It's more about the mechanics, like just setting up the files that when you send them off anywhere in the world, the people can pick them up and go, okay, that prints fine, and just make sure. So for example, and this A3 poster would be printed at 300 dpi, whereas the poster we were creating for 5 meters was printed at 100 dpi. So you created as a third of the size. So you created at 300 dpi at 1.25 meters. Kind of hope for the best that the rest will be printed fine. But because we're using live type within the poster, the type scales to anything. And poor Tamas, I think he was rendering the image for quite a few hours. Just, I think imagine, in sections, like literally it was just like creating a top and creating a bottom. And with the help of Photoshop, we actually stretched a few things, just to kind of give us that, because we just wanted to make sure that the visuals really render really clearly.
Yeah.
So I mean, InDesign was there. What really helped us also with the collaboration that I could save the logo. Unfortunately, you can't really see it there, but that's our logo. I just literally selected my type. I mean, let's do it with the other one. Let's go another page. Let's do that. Let's do that. So I've selected what I would call the logo, and I can click here my creative library. I've just created a library for Titanic. Say graphic, and it should add graphic now. As you can see, it's there.
So for anybody that's not used Creative Cloud libraries before, they're a great way to first of all store all of your own assets for a project, or just in general in one place where they're always available inside of the applications. But I mean, I'm sure you found as well, collaborating with Thomas, wasn't it?
Tamas, yeah. I call him Tamas. He's got a really cool
name. I'm
sure
he'll excuse my pronunciation if he's watching.
Don't worry.
But they're a great way to also collaborate as well. So you can share your libraries with whoever you want to effectively, and work from the same pool of assets. Absolutely.
I mean, it's a godsend, because I mean, we for larger files we use like for some other file sharing software, but for this real, like sort of the nitty gritty, really functional design, it's absolutely unbelievable. So I can show you that.
Yeah, in terms of file sharing, not necessarily, but they're for your design fragments essentially, aren't they? Like your colours.
We've got colours, and I'm just trying to think what else we've got. I mean, for example, when I was working on my book before, like I've got all my Adobe Stock stuff saved. I mean, we've got canomies, anything, we've got colors, and it's just very seamless, because you can actually make sure that the color is absolutely consistent throughout every single asset, so it's just making sure. And also what is quite nice, then you can actually tweak the color. So for example, usually in these tones, when I just click the color, I can actually say, okay, I don't actually want 13% of cyan in there, I just want this to be that, and it just makes it clearer, because when you, especially in CMYK print, even just a sort of couple of percent of an extra color makes the CMYK print slightly muddier, and that goes back literally all the way to selective color adjustment layer in Photoshop, just like you just want your images to be really clear and not have extra values in them, because we can all pick a color and go like, okay, well, this one looks great. I mean, and as, for example, it gives me 2% of cyan. It looks great on screen because in RGB it just splits it into various sort of values. But in print, that will really create a slightly sort of muddier color, which obviously we don't really want. So so we created these posters. As I said, they're meant to be our film frames, and just played with it. Just of course, we sometimes give ourselves a little bit of an headache to think like, okay. You know, I'll be obscuring our image or what we create. You know, we wanted to sort of have variable things of like having it higher and lower and what else that, but we kind of had to settle on some sort of consistency so we don't have, 15 posters in all of the different ways. What was really fantastic, what we created here, what we proposed, is that we wanted to create our own posters for the festival. So instead of having a film poster just given by the film festival or the film franchise, you just say, okay, use this. We actually created templates where the festival could create their own.
So they can just drop in their own images.
You can just drop in an image, not change the type, have a little text, and it's very much on brand. Just wanted to create the sort of very seamless experience that it all looks the same, and it's just kind of, you really know, because the festival is only one week in a year, and we wanted just to make the biggest splash possible. Okay, so this is what we can do with it, with the visuals.
Yeah.
Again, the same process was like applied to social media. We created some Instagram stories, as you mentioned earlier.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I also discovered quite interesting films. And it was like, okay, I want to be there. I want to.
Did you not get a ticket?
I was invited. Unfortunately, I couldn't go.
You mentioned.
I couldn't go.
You're imminently expecting again, aren't you?
I'm expecting a second child. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I will never sleep again. That's pretty much the question. When somebody says, "Oh, now I've got kids," I'm like, "Have you slept yet? Have you slept yet?" Because I don't think I slept yet properly. Yeah, and this is kind of like this is what I'm showing you here was actually the creative proposal. This is what we created in a way like the client didn't really. I mean, they knew what to expect, but we put all of them sort of on 32 black, all my money on 32 black. Like we didn't entertain different concepts. We knew that there was definitely some gold in this scenario that we wanted to really encapsulate all of these sort of values of filmmaking and sort of film watching or devouring of movies and the stories, and this is what we wanted to do with this. And we kind of settled on this palette because it's kind of it's neutral, kind of, it doesn't detract, because we wanted to focus on what happens, and the rest is really just like what the person adds to it. I tend to say with the visuals, like you create like a 99% of the story, and you let the person to finish the 1% of the story themselves. So, I mean, these images could be interpreted in many different ways. I told you what we intended to do, but you might have a different view. You might sort of think, okay, well, this reminds me of Tropical Thunder or something.
Yeah.
It might just like, I mean, it just might be, is this the art space which I consume movies in a different ways, or is this are you bringing the cinema to me, to my home? This I mean, we literally just kind of did that in a way that allowed people to kind of interpret it.
Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic.
Before we dive into the next section, is there any questions you've got yourself?
We don't have any questions from the chat, but just one from me, and we talked about stock earlier. But how do you make sure that you're keeping your work fresh and inspired? Which it clearly is, but I'm sure I'm sure it's not by accident.
I mean, yeah, it's just I believe in this concept of being a sort of creative athlete.
Creative athlete.
I call it creative athlete. It's my little term that I coined in my second book, and it's just like I feel like as individuals, as creatives, like we most of the time we are kind of on our own. Like you are your expression of your work, and the reason why I call it creative athlete is because when you see Usain Bolt running those 100 meters, he's a product of hundreds and hundreds of people, of scientists and masseuses or whatever, like the psychologist. He's there and he's got his team and he's ready to run that race. When you come and embark on projects like these and others and whatever you try to in your creative career, you don't really have that asset, don't really have that pool of talent and knowledge. And we have to really make sure that ourselves, we get to be the multifaceted sort of all-rounder in a way of knowledge. Because for example, with a footballer on the pitch, you've got, the shouty, manager going, do this, do that, do this together. But as a creative, I feel like we have to be both of those sides. Like we have to be the game reader as well as the player, and as well as the practitioner.
Yeah.
And that I feel, in a way, like when you switch that on, like when you switch that awareness and go like, okay, I want to be creating the best, most honest, and possibly the best work I can do. You have to kind of look around what's going on, not in just in creative world, but in the world of fashion and the world of psychology and science, because all of these things are sort of entwined together, like they're all sort of together and sort of creating this thing where we got out there. So I just feel like when you, what I would say, the creative athlete, like really looking out for your career and your aspirations, you kind of detract from sort of running into Photoshop straight thing as the first option, and kind of making sure that you do your research and you look into what else is out there and actually how you can process that information yourself to create something new. And yeah, I mean, again, we haven't reinvented anything. We don't do things differently to many other people, but it's just kind of borrowing from these different sort of pockets of excitement and just thinking, what would happen if we did this? And again, like with our studio, we haven't sort of opened the door and said, okay, so we'll be creating branding, but we'll put heavy focus on CGI. We'll be doing X, Y, Z. It just naturally happened, and I mean, I've got a decade-long career as illustrating advertising, and I've seen how stars are regurgitated and sort of recycled every 5 or 6 years, and you try to be ahead of the curve, but it's only kind of trying to get to where others may have not been. Whereas with these startup clients we work with, it's a blank slate. We don't expect to be doing our best portfolio work because we don't know the person just yet. They haven't told us, oh, wow, we've seen this amazing visual, would you do it again? It's more like, how can we tell your story in the most amazing way that people will want to sit up and listen?
Yeah.
So amazing. That's a long way to explaining to you.
Just sort of carrying on from that point then, you sort of maintaining your creative athlete, as you say. How would you judge the success of a particular project like this one, for instance, aside from obviously winning the pitch? Would you iterate on your own overall approach and judge the success of something like this?
Yeah, I mean, the validation comes in obviously business success, or people sort of in the awareness on sort of in the marketing way, like if what we create works, people technically buy it, or people come, or people arrive, or people sort of respond to it. The success is that when we technically make the impossible happen, like when you actually have nothing to work with, sometimes, like, I mean, our brief was just, would you help us? Would you do this for us? Would this be it? And we drill down, as I said at the top of the session, like we really look into this understanding of the picture. And our success is almost like a milestone success. Like the first thing is like, can we make this happen? Does it really work? And like, can we form this? Then we make it, and when we apply it, and if it actually all works, that's like, we made impossible happen, and we've got people on our side. We are actually all working towards the same thing. Yeah.
Just before we I think we're about to move on to the next stage.
Yeah.
So we've got a question from Simon, and he's asking what your next big project is. Are you allowed to say?
There's a couple of things I cannot say because they are for a sort of multinational brands. But the next project is, so you put me on the spot now. There's a few more startups that we are just about to process and start working with. There's a new fashion brand we will be working on, and it's luckily, I mean, at the moment we are. This is what we're doing. This is the thing, like the startup world. So there is a campaign we're doing for a big cosmetics brand, which will come in 2020.
We'll look out for
it's
that.
next Christmas, but we're doing all sorts of. There's a few other things, but the best bit about working in such a way that we are is that any project's a big project. Any project's a real Christmas. You know, every project is really validating what we've done.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Thanks,
I think I'll be short on time. So our creative proposal. This is where we arrived. So we've created these assets, and to validate it with the client and kind of just up for ourselves, we go into the beautiful world of mock-ups. I've got at the top of my slide is Adobe Dimension.
Yep.
And what we did here, I mean, we just kind of used available mock-ups of the internet. So it's like they are the Photoshop files. Again, what a mind-blowingly amazing thing to have, you know, like the smart objects that you can just apply things, you know, like you get the background, you apply your image to it, and it visualizes it to everyone. Like it just actually everyone gets to see what the real thing will look like. So this is technically our building, you know, this is what we're doing. And there's ways of just using the stock mock-ups, you know, put it that way. It's just a mock-up PSD files, or we can use Adobe Dimension. And earlier, when we did our demo,
another live demo.
Another live demo. Crossed. So let's be brave. As you quite rightfully, where's that? Already we're failing. So it'll be assets, won't it? So start at assets. And what we said we would show is to look up, for example, how to do the mock-up of the bag. Yeah. So there should be somewhere in here in the starter assets.
Yeah, there should be a nice drawstring bag.
There's a drawstring bag. And
this is all about storytelling, of course, isn't it? It's about selling the concept or the brand in situ, in context, isn't it? Creating that story around your typeface and your graphics and everything else.
And because this is a live demo, my color for some reason just doesn't work. So I can't change the color. I don't know why that's happened.
I'm not sure why that's happened.
But
you can change the color and the texture and the material of all these assets in Dimension, and very, very quickly put together a photorealistic render like we can see here. So we do have a couple of questions actually that have come through along these very lines. So Mark is asking, did you generate all the 3D renderings from scratch, or did you use photos as a basis?
So as we said earlier, like we referenced photos, we referenced actual real objects. So I'm trying to find a shortcut quickly about the visibility. So I'm going to add a black logo graphic. So I just added the black logo to my library, and then if I go to libraries, here we go. It should reply straight there, right?
Should do. Should apply as a decal, as we call them in Dimension.
Hey, there we go. It's there. And I mean, that would be I think there's a background change scene. I think, see, it just seems to work on some of the stuff. It's just because it's live.
Maybe it's your tablet.
It's my tablet.
Sticking.
Oh, it's just maybe it's my accent.
Could be it doesn't understand it. Yeah.
No, it's this one doesn't work. But it's as simple as this. I mean, it's a beautiful tool for validating. I've seen people doing some amazing things with Adobe Dimension. It's just like creating scenes that are just so real, like not realistic.
Yeah.
So
it uses a very, very powerful rendering engine. As good as anything on the market, effectively. So you can get that level of photorealism as you can see in the assets in your book. So I've got another couple of questions, actually, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'll literally just go to all the way. I think that's it. I mean, this was the that was the summary. So, yeah.
So where was it? So Michael was asking, can you recommend any books or resources on learning brand strategy?
I mean, Michael, whoever you are, thank you for the question. I mean, I'll be happy to plug my own book, which has come out on Monday. I mean, synchronized showing. Thank you very much. It's a book on branding.
That worked very nicely.
Book on branding, yeah. But also, I mean, my book especially my book, it really shows the process how you get to make the impossible. Like how you go and work with a client who has never worked in branding before, and you kind of it helps the process. Like everything I mentioned today is in there. I mean, there's many other titles available on the market that really draw down on strategy itself. You know, just like really get to understand. My wife is a brand strategist. I mean, I don't understand half of the things she says. You know, it's just like there's a whole many different layers. But this is all about getting to the stuff.
Marry a brand strategist, is that?
That was an accident, yeah. I was lucky.
So yeah, one more question, and excuse my pronunciation. So from Aliyah, hi Radim, loved your books and can't wait to get the new one. How do you decide on what mock-ups to create for each project, and how many do you usually create? That's a good question. I was asking you something similar the other day, wasn't I?
Yeah, so how many more mock-ups do we... It's really about based on a design strategy. So, for example, if we need to create, for example, like for this festival, like flags, posters, bags, T-shirts, it's really given by the brief. So I was working on a brief for a band yesterday. I'll be branding a band.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and again we were looking at like clothing and
anyone we know. Are you allowed to say?
No, this is actually it's an interesting one.
Okay.
But we were just looking at the clothing, like what can we give like the band on stage, off stage. You know, like how we can like what the road crew's gonna look like. And again, I got lots of assets that. Were of a totally different kind, so it was just like the things that we needed. Yeah. Do we create stuff? I mean, for example, our packaging that's all created in CGI. I mean, Dimension would be absolutely golden for that. You know, just creating these scenes, because it's really important to show people what they're really getting.
Yeah,
so, yeah. It's strategy driven what we do.
Cool. So yeah, we're getting towards the end of the session, but so I mean, I've got a couple of questions, if that's all right. If nobody else, if anyone's got any questions on the chat, of course, please keep them coming. But I was just going to ask you actually. So in your book, you talk about lots of exciting projects. But is there one in particular that you're most proud of?
Wow.
Or which one was the most fun to work on?
Well, luckily, I have to be honest. Is this wooden? Yeah, no, it's glass, isn't it? I was going to say, knocking on wood. They are all now really fun. Like we are lucky that through the process of actually having a real clear structure of actually achieving this, you get people on your side, and that's what really matters. Because the projects that go wrong is usually like where people are expecting something else. There's miscommunication, big expectations, and people like it's a very two-dimensional process. So I'm everything that's on the cover of the book, like from Cannabis to Vixen and Fox. I've worked with a company called Hemmens for a long time. It's all about creating these like nourishing long-term collaborations that just grow. And it's the reason why I've kind of went away from a digital illustration into design and branding is that you create things that last. Because as an editor illustrator, that was one of the things I used to do. It was just like the thing's printed today and it's chip paper tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to create things that actually are doing something for the good of the planet. It actually help people live better life. So that's I can't. Cannabis is one of the ones that really at the moment is just like amazing.
Okay, fantastic. So I think we've covered everything.
I think we did.
That we set out to. So
yeah,
just. You want to plug the book again?
Plug the
before
book,
we go?
But no, I think it's okay.
That's all right.
Don't be greedy. No, thank you.
No, thanks very much for coming. It's been great, and I hope everybody else has enjoyed hearing about Radim's processes and insights into his brain as much as I have. And thanks everybody for joining as well. And we'll see you on the next edition of Adobe Creative Collabs.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, man. Thank you.